let's go back to one of our top stories then. President Cyril Ramaphosa has delivered the eulogy at renowned photographer and activist Dr. Peter Magubane's Provincial Official Funeral Category 2 at the Bryanston Methodist Church, north of Johannesburg. Let's get more on this and bring in SABC News senior reporter Chriselda Lewis. Chriselda, a very good afternoon to you. A giant of South Africa laid to rest today, Dr. Peter Magubane. Take us through what's happening where you are.
Well, that's right, Nzinga. The cortege is about to leave the Bryanston Methodist Church now after the conclusion of the church service, and it will head now to the Fourways Memorial Park, and that is where the final resting place will be of this journalistic giant, world-acclaimed photographer, Dr. Peter Magubane. Of course, a special provincial official funeral is what he has received. As you can see, the visuals right in front of us, the guard by the South African Police Service is what accompanies this kind of a special send-off. And of course, hearing from the president as well, who was delivering that eulogy, saying that the apartheid regime did not care much for the lives of those it extinguished, but it cared a great deal about its image. And essentially, the president also in paying tribute, also indicating, that the image that was portrayed at the time, portrayed to the rest of the world, it's images that Dr. Peter Magubane and his colleagues had captured that gave a true account of the atrocities of the apartheid government. In accordance, of course, with the special provincial official funeral, the president saying that as South Africans, they were richly giving this deserved recognition to Dr. Magubane for his contribution to the important craft of journalism. And him also indicating that we're doing so because bearing witness to injustices everywhere in all of its forms. That's what the president said. That will forever remain, and that will forever remain an act of courage that is worthy of the highest acclaim. So the president also saying, let me just be quiet for a second, as of course this guard continues. This church service, which has just been concluded in Nzinga. And the president also is saying that when we look at the world today, we're seeing journalists being arrested, persecuted, and even killed for doing their jobs. And he says that as we bid farewell to one of our own legendary journalists, we should also remember the slaughter of journalists in the ongoing war on Gaza. Let's take a listen to what the president had to say there.
When we look at the world today, we see journalists being arrested, persecuted, and even being killed for doing their work. As we bid farewell to one of our own legendary journalists and artists and photographer, I ask that we remember the more than 100 journalists and photographers and media workers who have been killed in Israel's genocidal war on the people of Gaza. Indeed, bearing witness to the truth is a revolutionary act. Standing firm for justice is what must define our humanity.
The cortege now leaving the Bryanston Methodist Church after the conclusion of the church service for Dr. Peter Magubane. The president also earlier touching on the hearings at the International Court of Justice brought by South Africa against the state of Israel. Let's take a listen to what President Ramaphosa had to say with regard to that action.
As we lay Peter to rest today, the International Court of Justice in The Hague will tomorrow begin hearings in the proceedings brought by South Africa against the State of Israel for its crimes committed against the Palestinian people. Our opposition to the ongoing slaughter of the people of Gaza has driven us as a country to approach the International Court of Justice as a people who once tasted the bitter effect of dispossession, discrimination, removals, racism, and state-sponsored violence. We are clear that we will stand on the right side of history. It is our fervent hope that just as we are able to reconcile, to make peace, that the peoples of Israel and Palestine will find a lasting and just peace as well.
All right, and also an assurance from some of the mourners that the ANC, which is of course the governing party, will not let Dr. Peter Magubane down. After all, he fought for the democracy that we now enjoy alongside many others. And of course, there's been criticism of the current state of the ANC and some of the challenges that the country is facing at the helm of the ANC. Let's take a listen to what veteran journalist Snuki Zikalala had to say.
Peter, your selfless sacrifices were not in vain. As veterans of the ANC, we will definitely renew our organization, the African National Congress. We are determined to cleanse the ANC of unscrupulous individuals who are undermining our values, principles, and traditions. As veterans of the movement, we are actively participating in all structures of the ANC and will definitely bring back society's trust in our movement. We will not disappoint you, Brother Peter. We assure you that we'll definitely bring back the integrity of society, of the ANC in society.
That's right, as the cortege, the last cars make their way from the Bryanston Methodist Church to the final resting place of Dr. Peter Magubane, certainly described as a giant in the media fraternity, and certainly someone kept on referring to this as we went through the proceedings today in terms of the final resting place of Dr. Peter Magubane, described as a guerrilla with a camera, described as a freedom fighter with a camera, while many took up arms to fight against the oppression of the apartheid government. This was someone who used the camera to highlight the plight of black South Africans during apartheid. And it's those images that many say had fostered and even bolstered international solidarity for the plight of black people in South Africa at the time. So the procession making its way to the Fourways Memorial Park in just a moment. The president also, his convoy is also scheduled to leave in just a few moments. In fact, it is now. Just moved towards this direction. Of course, him paying tribute to Dr. Peter Magubane, in that him, of course, indicating that this man was a giant. He was someone who carried out his work with precision. Many describing how this giant had also assisted them, the younger generation of photographers, how they were assisted by the likes of Dr. Peter Magubane. While he did his work, he never forgot about the assistance towards the younger generation, and was always concerned about how they did their work. So the baton certainly has been handed over to that generation of young photographers, and it's that generation that the president of course also indicating should be carried well by the generation of photographers that has come well way after Dr. Peter Magubane certainly went on to inspire many journalists, including myself and my colleagues, as well as photographers within the field, of course, of journalists. Definitely one of the most celebrated photographers in South Africa for the role that he has played for the attainment of democracy in South Africa, and certainly one to be remembered. He will, of course, be laid to rest at the Fourways Memorial Park. That's, of course, here in Johannesburg. The depictions of everyday life for black South Africans living under apartheid, for which he was best known. We look to those images, the president's also referring to some of those images that he began taking in the 1960s, appearing in distinguished publications, your Drum magazines, Time magazines, and the Rand Daily Mail, and others as well. A photograph, of course, of a black domestic worker stroking the hair of a white child seated on a Europeans-only bench. That photograph, you'd recall, going worldwide, getting worldwide attention for the power that it displayed, certainly with the picture that was taken by Dr. Peter Magubane. All right, that's where we're going to leave it for now. This is as the procession makes its way to the Fourways Memorial Park, and that will be the final resting place of this legend, world-acclaimed photojournalist, lensman, Dr. Peter Magubane.
SABC News senior reporter Chriselda Lewis at the funeral service there. Thank you so much for that update. So many poignant moments from the funeral of Dr. Peter Magubane, which we're bringing to you on SABC News. And also continue viewing or go back and view on our SABC News YouTube page. It's time for a short break. When we come back, we'll have news on your markets. Please stay with us.